Honourable members, please take your seat. I'm now calling the Minister of Agriculture, Honourable Steenhuisen.
Madam Speaker, House Chairperson, Chairperson of the NCOP, Mr. President, Honourable Members. South Africa is in a crisis. For 10 years, our population has grown faster than our economy, making us poorer. We have the highest unemployment rate on earth, and that has now been the case for decades. Violent crime still destroys the lives and livelihoods of our people at a terrible rate. 70 of our fellow countrymen and women are murdered every single day. Our education outcomes continue to steal our children's futures, and positive progress is slow. 8 months ago, the Democratic Alliance entered the Government of National Unity for 2 reasons. First, to prevent the MK from getting their hands back on the levers of power, where they would be able to loot another 4.9 trillion rand of our GDP and plunge our country into another 9 wasted years, where it wouldn't be the school children, it wouldn't be the poor that benefit, it would have been the same old elite that ate out of the trough of the public purse and have led our country to where it sits today. But we also joined the Government of National Unity. We joined the Government of National Unity so that we could play our part in helping to turn South Africa around. To turn the tide.
Honourable Steenhuisen, please take your seat. Honourable members, for the last time, once again, I'm pleading with you. Don't drown the Speaker on the floor. Over to you, Honourable Steenhuisen.
We joined the Government of National Unity to turn our country around so we can finally turn our back on the looting, the corruption and maladministration that typified the 9 wasted years under President Jacob Zuma. But we also joined to be part of the growth and jobs agenda and to make sure that we confront the crises that face us. The truth is, we've persisted for far too long with policies that fail South Africa. State monopolies being bailed out over and over again. Excessive regulation that makes it harder for businesses to grow. Empowerment policies that benefited the few and not the many. And a tariff regime that pushes up prices with no benefit, even to the companies that those tariffs are meant to protect. And underpinning that, a thoroughgoing lack of accountability, where those responsible can sit in the gallery of Parliament watching our proceedings instead of behind bars where they belong. Worse still, in the face of this crisis, we've yet to respond with the urgency and determination to make a clean break from the past and to set forth boldly on a new path of success. And now, having made ourselves weak over those 9 wasted years, we confront a new threat. US tariff barriers, potential threat of AGOA, and possibly even sanctions by a regime driven by an administration that will put America's interests ahead of ours. And make no mistake about that. And so what do? When a country faces a crisis, it needs to unite and navigate the threat. And that is what we must do now. And the GNU must practice what it preaches. And that is why, in a variety of portfolios, we've taken a decision to focus like a laser beam on growth and jobs. And that was what the President set out in the SONA. I was in Ceres yesterday to mark the first shipment of South African apples to Thailand in 16 years. Just one example of how this government is opening up new markets for our agricultural products. Solly Malatsi, ministers on a mission to get fast, reliable broadband into the hands of millions of people in rural areas. Dr. Schreiber opening South Africa to skills and to tourists. Minister McPherson fast-forwarding infrastructure projects. Honourable Garube, Minister Garube, focusing on long-term education excellence through a strategic reorientation. And Minister George, ensuring regulations to enable sustainable growth. We need to approach our trading partners now and seek to lower...
Steenhuisen, please take your seat. Honourable Member.
Will John Steenhuisen take a question?
Honourable Steenhuisen, can you take a question?
No, I wasted 9 years listening to this stuff in the House
He doesn't
under
want
his
to
previous
take a
leader.
question. Please sit down, Member. You can proceed, Honourable Steenhuisen.
We must turbocharge Operation Vulindlela. We must take up the World Bank's offer of a government-wide regulatory review. We must bring down the costs of living for our consumers. We must allow equity alternatives to ownership requirements in every sector. And we must make the bold decisions that are required to get our country moving forward. But there's one more thing we must do. There's one more thing we must do. And that is remember that South Africa cannot succeed unless everybody in South Africa succeeds, and I mean everybody, no exceptions. And that means we must redress the wrongs of the past, but we must do so in a way that grows employment and grows our economy. It makes no sense, for instance, that 30 years of transformation has occurred alongside a 50% increase in unemployment. We cannot redress the past by compromising the present or sacrificing the future. We must ensure that we respect cultural and language rights, which exist precisely because South Africa is a diverse and divided country. And we must ensure that every single South African feels safe in their homes and at their place of work. And that includes our farmers and farm workers. The dismantling of the rural safety units was a catastrophic mistake, and it opened the door to a collapse of rural policing and the targeting of our farmers and farm workers of all races by violent criminals and syndicates. Just this weekend, I was in Tabanchu, in Vicksburg, and other parts of the Free State, with commercial farmers and small-scale black farmers, to listen to their heartbreaking stories about how they fear for their families' lives, and they are preyed upon almost monthly by syndicates of stock thieves who destroy their opportunity to grow their businesses. Cases get opened but are never investigated. They know who is responsible but cannot secure arrests or convictions. This situation cannot go unaddressed. And as a result, in my capacity as Minister of Agriculture, I'm announcing that we're going to work with the sector to design a comprehensive plan to combat farm murders, stock theft, and improve rural safety. I look forward to collaborating with the Minister of Police and the entire Justice and Security cluster to bring an end to the scourge once and for all. Madam Speaker, we live in times of both great hope but also great fear. It is time for us as leaders, the people of this House, to lead by example. We should seek to unite, not to divide. We should seek to build, Mr. President, not to break. We should choose to reflect the best of ourselves and banish the worst. Madam Speaker, we must recognize the moment that we find ourselves in for what it is, a moment of great danger for the people of South Africa. For if they fall prey to the historic revisionism that we've just heard from the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, they could lull themselves into some complacency that somehow things were better when those policies and persons were in charge. Nobody took more advantage of the people of South Africa than the leader of Umkhonto we Sizwe, even using their money to build his own house while people lived in poverty. And we must reject the revisionism, because had we had that 4.9 trillion rand that was stolen under Mr. Zuma, we would have schools that were working, clinics that were functioning, police and nurses on the streets, and South Africa would be a better place. But never you mind, Mr. President, it's up to us now to pick up the baton and to take this country forward. But it means that we need to do whatever we can to turn the economy around. The time for a break with failed policies is now. The time for a new approach
Honourable Minister,
is now.
your time is up.
Now is the
You
time.
can take your seat.
Thank you.
Thank you, honourable members. Please take your seats. I'm now calling